And hello, welcome in Priority Talk Radio here on Truth 101 WXJC. Greg Davis in, Nate Williams here as well. There's Todd walking by, Todd Dixon. Hey Todd, how are you? Oh, he's just dropping something off. All right, good to see you. Anyway, I was just over walking by in WDJC, and they said, I walked by, they said, oh, there's Greg Davis. Maybe he'll know or something. So I just thought I'd do the same thing.
Hey,
so we got a new book in. Want to see what it is?
Sure.
Let's just see what it is. This is Priority Talk. All right, Nate's here. Caris Snider's here with us in studio. Oh, Lord, these are a mess. We're live on video. If you want to join us on Facebook.
It's like those bars that you open up, the
what
granola ones, and then they just...
I mean, does a book really need insulation? So people send us books in the mail, you know, because they want to be on the show, and you never know what they are. When you go to open a book, it's
Aren't you glad my package is not like that?
No, yours is good. I need to show you one downstairs I got, though. You'd be impressed with it.
That's fancy.
Yeah. Oh, it's wrapped. This must be like a... Yeah, if you want to jump over on Facebook, I think I can handle it. Nate pulls out the knife. I mean, it's just a butcher paper. I think I'll be all right. Wow, man, somebody put some time into this. Let's see what this is. All right, they're gonna get promotion whether they deserve it or not.
Yeah.
Let's just hope it's not something
heretical.
Oh, it's from James Merritt, Pastor James Merritt out of Georgia.
The God Who Hears.
Yeah,
nice
Touching
cover.
Lives Ministry. Yeah, Touching Lives. So James Merritt, the 40-day prayer devotional. That sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The God Who Hears, James Merritt, with a foreword from Greg Laurie. So there it is. All right. If anybody's watching yet, I don't know if they are or not.
Oh, yeah, we're on Facebook right now.
Yeah, we're on Facebook live. I know this is horrible. This will be my Phil Williams imitation. All right. So Phil's always rattling his papers.
He does like to do that.
That's a great way to get the show started. All right, we're going to be here until 7. And I'm going to bow out a little bit early tonight, and Nate's going to finish up. Nate, second hour, you're talking apologetics.
Yes, I think there is a unique book that's out there, Bridge Building Apologetics, about forming relationships, developing your listening skills in the area of apologetics, which is pretty unique. So I'll be talking to Lindsay Medenwalt, and I'm excited for it.
All right, so apologetics, we... talked with Jay Warner Wallace on Friday.
I love him.
Although his new book is not so much apologetics, really.
Not as much.
He has sort of made the turn from not showing is Christianity true to is Christianity good, basically.
Yes.
That's kind of, he's showing the benefits, I guess you would say, of a Christian worldview and all that. So he sort of made the turn a little bit.
Yeah, that's been a major shift in apologetics to, all right, how does Christianity treat different people groups, and is it good for society?
Yeah. So anyway, Nate will have that coming up next hour, and if you miss it, you can catch it on the podcast a little bit later as well. All right, Caris Snider, that's who you've been here in studio with us. She's been here many times over the past few years, and has actually hosted the show a time or two,
Couple
something
of
like
times,
that.
yeah.
Have to get you back.
I know, yeah, that'll be fun.
So always does a fantastic job, and she has just released, and from Coleman, Alabama, let me say. So I got two Colemanites.
That's right.
Shout out to Coleman
here in my area. You know, and I've just recently moved to Pelham, and I don't know what to call myself being from Pelham. Maybe I need to ask.
Pelamite?
Yeah, I don't know.
That sounds like something out of the Old Testament.
Pelhamians or Pelham, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it could be biblical. It can sound biblical.
That sounds biblical.
I think so.
Yeah, anybody from Shelby County maybe can help me. What do we call ourselves? Because I'm brand new, you know, like a month in. So, but Caris has just released her now sixth
book.
That's crazy.
I know, it's wild.
You couldn't believe you wrote the first one.
I know. I go back, and every time I come here, I always go back to the first time you had me on, and just kind of, you know, in awe of, you know, God just kind of puts us in places where we never think we're going to be, so He can do the work, and He gets the glory. So that first book that I wrote, Anxiety Elephants,
came out in 2020.
Well, it came out December 2019.
That's right.
Right before.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
2020, and then it just went from there. You know, the world shut down, and anxiety. I feel like anxiety was almost the pandemic of things for everybody, for every age group, and so He just opened the doors.
Yeah, and you started writing on this topic. Now, we've covered this before, but just people that are new or haven't heard you before, just out of your own life experience.
That's right. I dealt with a lot of anxiety and depression about 13 years ago, almost took my life. My husband and I, we were worship leaders at a church. I was running a successful business out of my home. My daughter, who's 15 now, was almost 3 at the time, living her best toddler life, and I was a master of the mask. And I did not want to acknowledge that I was dealing with anxiety and depression. I was one of those involved, as part of the church who didn't think it was real.
Yeah.
My advice would be suck it up, try harder, pray harder, do more. And then I realized just how real it was. And I was trying to do all those things, but I needed help. I needed to acknowledge that I was struggling, that I was dealing with some difficult things. And when I hit rock bottom.
So you got to the point where you weren't eating?
I wasn't eating. I was down to maybe 100 pounds.
Wow.
I was afraid to eat. I was numbing the pain of anxiety. I didn't want to deal with it, so I just numbed it. Some people will use alcohol, pornography, scrolling their social media, but I was using food to starve the pain. And I got down to about 100 pounds, found out I was pregnant, and my doctor said, hey, for the sake of the baby, you got to eat. I don't care if you eat donuts, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You eat.
Right.
And two things happened. That mama bear instinct kicked in that many of us as women have. We may not fight for ourselves, but we will fight for our children. And then, if a doctor says you can eat donuts for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you eat the donuts for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And I did. And I gained about 6 pounds, but around 8 weeks, I had a miscarriage and lost the baby. And that was the bottom for me. I felt like I was not needed here. I was more of a burden and a bother than that the Lord could use me, that my family would be better off without me. And it was in that moment that I know God whispered to my soul, look up. And when I looked up, there were the helpers. My counselor was there, my doctor was there, my church family was there, my own family and friends were there. Nobody left me, nobody turned their back on me, and I realized I wasn't alone, and there was hope. I just needed to learn how to think about things differently, how to live differently. And through that, over the past 13 years, God has just helped me to see there are healthy coping skills. There are ways that we can deal with our mental health through our faith, and take those steps forward. Just like we would take care of our physical body, we have to take care of our mind, our mentality. And if we can do that early on, I have a lot of other books that are for children and tweens, and now this book for teens. If we can teach them early on that they don't have to hide in shame, they don't have to hide in fear, they can bring their anxieties, they can come to God with those things, and they can respond to it. They don't have to avoid it or isolate away. If they can learn healthy ways to respond, how much further along will they be when they're adults?
Yeah. Well, I like so much of what the world's doing with mental health or things like that is just putting sort of a Band-Aid on things, because they're not offering the real solution, which is found in knowing who you are, knowing the Lord, and understanding who you are in Him, and they don't offer that solution.
That's right. Right. They just want to give something to treat the symptoms when you need to get to the root. When you need to know your value, who you are, that you're not a mistake. The world pushes a lot of that on our kids now, that you're not, if you feel like you're a mistake, well, you probably are. So let's change some of that when that is adding in more anxiety, more stress, more pressure. And so I don't want people to think that they just have to suffer through anxiety for the rest of their life. Like, there's a way to get through it, to overcome it, and to actually thrive in living your life the way that God intended for us to do. We just need to go to His Word that is living and active. And that's the thing that I love, is that there are healthy action steps that you can take that are grounded in biblical truth.
All right.
And so that's the important part. There is action that you can take.
All right. Yeah, that's good. And we'll talk about more of that. So this new release, and we'll go through all of them, but we'll maybe just give everybody the outline. But Anxiety Elephants for Teens, and this is a 90-day devotional for those of you watching online. There's several of you. We'll let you see that. And so it's available now from In-Game Press. And Caris is also doing a fantastic job speaking in schools, churches, women's events, teen events. I mean, you're going from churches, secular to sacred. I mean, you're crossing both.
Everywhere.
All over the place and bringing the same good message everywhere, and people are finding the books. And look, you don't release your 6th book if people aren't finding them helpful, and people aren't getting them. So that tells you something about it. All right, let's take a break. More with Caris Snider when we come back, as we continue to talk about anxiousness and these kind of issues, mental issues, but always with a spiritual solution. All right, we'll be right back. If you got questions or thoughts, 205-941-1011. And we return. Greg Davis here, Nate Williams here, and our special guest, Caris Snider, in studio with us. And we're also on Facebook today, and we are on. Friday we said we was going to be on, but then we had a problem. So we got that resolved, and we are broadcasting live video off of our Facebook page, Priority Talk. So head on over and find us. CarisSnider.com. That's Caris with a C, Snider with an I.
There you go.
I always say it that way because you can get mixed up.
Oh, yeah.
We've got that linked up at our show notes as well, so if you want to find Caris, you can do that as well. So Caris, give us the rundown of the book, because you've written on this same topic,
right,
from multiple audiences.
Yes.
And you've grown in your content and everything as well, of course, but you've written for different audiences, and this newest one is for teens.
That's
but
right.
let's just kind of go back to the first book and just sort of work us through.
Sure.
Anxiety Elephants.
Anxiety Elephants, 31-day devotional. This is going to be for your adults, for your 20-somethings going into college. That's that first age group. And then my daughters said to me, Mom, will you write a book with words we can understand?
Yeah.
And that was around 2021. So they were in the tween age group, which if you ever hear that word tween, that's considered around 9 to 12-year-olds. Mm-hmm. So then it came Anxiety Elephants for tween girls, and then Anxiety Elephants for tween boys. Mm-hmm. 90-day devotional. So that's your 9 to 12-year-olds for that one. All right. And then the children's picture book, There's an Elephant on My Chest. It came out in August, I think August 1st. I get the dates confused. That's going to be geared towards your 4 to 8-year-olds, which I love that children's book because I have a child development degree. I've worked with kids almost 20 years. Mm-hmm. That one is considered, it's not written with faith-based language, so they call it general market, but it's basically saying the same thing just with words that I can use to get in public schools. Mm-hmm. And then hopefully that seed is planted and they go find the other books. Right. And then Caroline Mom came out with B&H, and that's for moms who feel overwhelmed, overworried, overstressed. Mm-hmm. They're just over all of that. So that's what that one is for. And then this one finally, Anxiety Elephants for Teens, that just came out recently.
And you've been needing something for teens because you speak to a lot of teens. You speak to a lot of youth groups.
That's right.
And moms and kids and schools. I mean, all of it really. But I see you quite often at youth group, and maybe mom and dad, parents and
yes,
teens.
That's right. I do a lot of things with teenagers, with youth pastors, with those who are working with students, because our teenagers are so anxious. They are so overwhelmed. They are feeling pressure that we never felt, anxieties that we never had, thanks to social media, internal pressures. So when I go in and talk to these groups, I share my own story, of how I have dealt with anxiety, just like many of them, but the hope that's there with God, that they can bring that to Him. And then we talk about action steps that they can take, because they need to know, okay, this is anxiety, this is what it is, but now what can I do? So that's one of my favorite things that I do with teenagers, girls and boys, is talk about, here are some healthy action steps that you can practice. Here's some scripture that you can look to. And then I've even had, meetings with youth pastors who are looking for speakers on this topic, who are looking for books and resources on this topic, because still, even today, there's not a lot out there. So that's one reason why I love talking to them so much, is because they need it. They need somebody to pour into them, to say, hey, what you're dealing with is real, but here's how you can walk through it.
Well, it seems like we say this all the time, and I've been around youth ministry and in youth ministry for a long, long time, with 25 years of the First Priority.
Yeah.
But kids today have got it. It's harder than it's ever been, and it's true. We always say that, but it's true, because it's such a dark world that we live in, and we shouldn't be surprised that it's dark. What we should be surprised at is the lack of light.
Right.
It's dark, but there's not a lot of light out there for kids.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of positive. There's not a lot of hope. There's not a lot of gospel, quite honestly, out there. So they can get that with this book. So you're finding parents buying it for their kids, kids are buying it for themselves. Yeah,
I'm finding that parents are buying this book for their kids because they see them anxious, or they'll say to me, my son is not dealing with a lot of anxiety right now, but he probably will. Mm-hmm. When those decisions come, where you have to decide, am I going to go to college? Am I going to do trade school? When I graduate. Or a lot of young girls, anxiety hits our young girls twice as much as our boys. They deal with a lot more of comparison, and it's just the makeup of our brains as well. So oftentimes parents and moms especially are buying the books for their daughters. But what has been interesting is when I go to trade shows or I'm at churches and there are grandparents there, the grandparents are buying it. They are just so distraught. I mean, I have talked to grandfathers who are in tears over what their grandchildren are having to deal with, go through. They just never thought that it would be like this, probably, for their, to see that their grandchildren going through that. So that's been something that has really just kind of blessed my soul, to see grandparents also pouring into them. But then I have a lot of youth pastors who are like, we need multiple copies because we want to do summer Bible studies with this. We want to walk through this together because you don't have a lot going on. So on their Wednesday nights, they can walk through these books together and have real conversations and real connection, which is what they need. A lot of teens say they feel anxious because they don't have someone in their life that they think they can talk to, that they think cares about them.
Yeah, and this can facilitate conversations.
Absolutely.
What's the real quick? What's the average length of the devotion? I mean, what is it? A couple hundred words?
Maybe 300 words.
Yeah, I was going to say
tops.
about 300
it's
words.
one
So
page.
they're very quick.
Yeah, very quick.
Which is good for teenagers. You know,
Yes.
they have the, they pay attention.
Yeah,
Attention
we
span
hit
of
their
a
attention span
fish.
right on
there
the
you go.
market.
Attention
Yeah.
span of like a BB or something.
That's right.
You know. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll get more into what we mean by anxiousness and anxiety symptoms, and let Caris do a little coaching for us here as well. All right. Priority Talk right here on Truth 101 WXJC, and also streaming live video at our Priority Talk Facebook page. We'll be right back. All right, we're back in. Greg Davis here and Nate Williams all the way until 7 p.m. And Nate will be talking apologetics next hour, bridge building apologetics, how to get along even when we disagree, with Lindsay Mendenwalt. Is that right? You're doing the interview, so Lindsay Mendenwalt. Medenwalt. Oh, yeah, I see it now. Medenwalt, sorry.
There you go.
All right, so a guest of his will be on next hour. I've got a guest in this hour, though, Caris Snider with us, and she is the author of Anxiety Elephants, the whole series of books. You can find them at her website, Caris Snider. Caris with a C, Snider with a Y.
With an
I.
You
See,
got it. I was
you.
paying attention.
Caris with a C, Snider with an I.
She was
and,
ready.
I was ready.
and we've got that linked up on our show notes at PriorityTalkRadio.com as well. So if you want to go there and find out about Caris, all the 6 books now that are out for all the different age groups, and also to have her come and speak to any group that you've got, really. I mean, you're talking to moms of young children.
Young children.
You're speaking in schools.
Yeah, I'm even doing a widows group June 1st in Coleman.
Because this really crosses all boundaries.
That's right.
And you've got a resource for every age now, pretty much, don't you?
Every age, every stage of life, yeah.
All right, Anxiety Elephants. Well, tell us, you told us some of your story, but just tell us about when you're talking anxiousness, anxiety, the symptoms, of this. Maybe things parents can look out for, or look out for in our own life if we're going down a bad way.
Yeah, that's a great question. And anxiety can manifest itself in multiple ways. A lot of the common things that you can be aware of for your teenager, or maybe even in yourself, is if you are finding yourself having a difficult time to just do normal day-to-day activities. You're filled with constant worry or fear about what might happen. Some physical things that your teenager might experience. It could be a rapid heart rate. All of a sudden their breathing is normal and fine, and now they feel breathless because their breathing is faster. They might say they feel like they're going to faint or pass out. They may be having lots of headaches or stomach aches. You may even hear stomach aches also with children. My stomach hurts. I don't want to go to school. Or a teenager, we have exams going on right now. I have a stomach ache. I don't want to take this exam, because they're feeling anxious. Loss of sleep. They may be very fidgety for no reason at all. They have outbursts of emotions through anger, where they may yell or hit or kick or scream, or sadness, where you just ask a question about maybe something about that happened with lunch or with a friend, and they just burst into tears. That can happen. It could be where they are nauseous, that they just have an upset stomach. That can happen. An inability to concentrate. They cannot. focus on anything, no matter how hard they try. So, and then another one that you're going to see oftentimes with them, a symptom in a way that they deal with the anxiety is they'll begin to isolate away. So maybe they've been around family, they've been around friends, hanging out, and now all of a sudden they want to just hang out in their room. Now they're closing their door. They may be kind of scrolling social media. They're no longer involved in activities. So these are all some warning signs that you might see from your teenager if they are dealing with some anxiety.
How do you know? I mean, I guess everybody has a certain amount of that. We live in a
That's
fallen
right.
world. So
Yeah.
how do you know when, is it like if you see multiple of these or if one of them is consistent? I mean, how do you know if it's really becoming to a problem?
Right. So if you see that it is affecting their ability to just go throughout their day, like if they're just kind of eat up with nervousness and they're not even able to go to school and take their exam, then that anxiety has gotten to a problem where in that point you may need an additional resource, a counselor, someone to talk to. But if you're seeing just some of these symptoms kind of happening, that would be just a great time to have a conversation with your teenager to say, hey, I can see there's some things different going on. Tell me about what's going on at school. And then just kind of have some open-ended questions to ask them so that they can see, number one, they're not going to be in trouble for talking to you about their anxiety or their struggle. And then also they see that we as their parents, we're a safe place for them to come to, because what we don't want is for them to turn to social media, to someone that they don't know, talking about their struggles, because we know that advice that they're going to get is probably not going to be the best advice.
Yeah, and they just, sometimes they're looking for, like you said earlier, looking for somebody to talk to.
They want somebody to, yes.
And if they can't talk to you, they'll talk to somebody.
They're going to talk to somebody, and the world is ready.
Or they're going to press it so far down inside that that leads to a dark
place, and
really.
we don't want them to go there. So we want to be available. Ask those questions and tell them, you can tell you're not going to be in trouble. Is there something going on? Are you having a difficult time with friends? And just for me, what I have found, I don't know, for you when your kids were teenagers, my daughter loves to talk to me when we're riding around in the car.
Mm-hmm.
There's no eye contact.
No, that's true.
And so it's like I just get all kinds of information while we're in the car. So sometimes I'll drive around a little longer. I'll never forget my mom. I don't remember what I was dealing with, but I was a teenage girl, so there's no telling what it was. And she took me to McDonald's and got me fries, the McDonald's French fries. And I talked to her forever just eating those French fries. So just little things like that where we're, as parents, just being the listener and letting them just kind of get all those things out, because we want to be that safe place for them to land. And we want them to know, hey, you're going to have struggles. Let's deal with those struggles while you're here in our home so you can know the right way to deal with it. So when you leave, when you do go to college or when you do go off to whatever your next step is, you're going to be more prepared. They need to be prepared
Well, and that's
for
true
how to
for
deal
all
with that.
issues when it comes to parents. It frustrates me to see so many parents that protect their kids to the point to where they never struggle, they never fail, they never have any issues.
Yep.
You set up this cocoon, and then, man, they're in for a rude awakening one day, because it's going to come.
It's going to happen.
You can't do that forever.
That's right.
And you're better off to deal with those things while you have them with you and under your influence and in your voice and your ear.
That's right.
And so then they can deal with it then, and then they'll know how to better deal with it later on.
When they're,
but
right.
that's where you see they leave off and go leave, and then they crash and burn.
Crash and burn.
Because they don't know how to deal with anything.
Right. They don't know how to respond to pressure.
Yeah.
And so that's what we need to see as parents. Pressure is not a bad thing, and we need to help them respond to it. I had an interview this morning. I was talking with a lady from Michigan, and we were talking about this topic specifically. And I said, look, if you keep your kids in a bubble and you don't prepare them for the fiery darts and arrows that are coming when that bubble gets popped, because it will, what are they going to do? How are they going to respond? If we are not preparing them for the real world, for the darkness, they're not going to know how to be light. They're not going to know how to stand firm. They are going to think, oh, I'm doing something wrong. I've messed up. I've failed. And then they run. They run from it. They avoid it. They isolate away instead of knowing I'm prepared for this. I can respond to this. This is not going to take me down or take me out. I can stand firm on what I know to do. And that's our job as parents. And parents will ask me, they'll say, do you think that we put our anxiety on our kids? And we do.
Yeah.
We do when we live through anxiousness and we don't prepare them, we can put them in that place of anxiety if we are not preparing them for how to live and respond to the world. And I know oftentimes, especially for us as moms, I can speak as a mom, we don't want to hear that, but the reality is that's the truth. We have to prepare them. We have to instill in them an ability to know if you have these big emotions, anxiety, fear, whatever it might be, you don't have to run from it. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It just means this is the human part of you. So let's walk through this with truth, with biblical truth, and with action steps you can take. And
Amen.
let's equip them. Let's equip and prepare them, not scare them.
Yeah, Caris Snider with us. Anxiety Elephants for Teens is the latest book she has on this topic, and she's available to come and speak. It's all different types of settings, quite honestly. Yeah. Last time you were here, I think you were headed to Tuscaloosa to speak to incoming freshmen, weren't you?
I was speaking to incoming freshmen down there, yeah.
That was back in the fall.
That's right. That's exactly right, yeah.
When the previous book came out. So when you're speaking, just quickly give us a little bit of the bottom line. What are some of the things you share as sort of solutions or methods,
sure.
to deal with these types of situations?
Yeah. So there's several different ones that I hit on. An easy and practical one that a lot of teenagers, even adults, turn to is just pausing and taking deep breaths, because it takes your brain out of the emotional place where we are not thinking rationally and calmly, and it makes you to be focused on the moment that you're in. Mm-hmm. So pausing and taking those deep breaths, and even reminding yourself that the breath of God is in your lungs. So that's one. Another one is gratitude. Our brains cannot be anxious and thankful at the same time. Science has been studying this. They are looking at the power of gratitude, and it's this built-in natural anxiety blocker. So when you look for the good, not pretend like everything is fine, but look for those good things and practice gratitude, that keeps the anxiety at bay. There is also having that community around you, again, face-to-face, safe adults. Don't do life alone. Galatians 6:2 tells us to bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. I love Philippians 4:8. We need to move out of what if and into what is true, pure, holy. Keep our thoughts there. That's a lot of anxiety, which is dealing with your thoughts. Casting our anxieties, journaling, writing those things down is so important. You've got to get rid of those negative thoughts, but you have to replace them with truth, because if you don't replace them, what will happen is anxiety will bring its friends: dread, depression, shame. So you want to replace it with truth. And then the most important one, I think, is that we just have to acknowledge it. Psalms 94:19 tells us, when anxiety is great within me, your comfort, God's comfort, brings us joy. So we can bring that anxiety to him, that overwhelm to him, that fear, and acknowledge it. And what he will do, just as he met Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, strengthened him to walk that path to the cross, he will give us the strength that we need to continue forward in the path that he has for us.
Well, what's amazing is, and we've talked about this before, how much the Bible talks about your mind.
Right.
Okay, and we've done that, but now just reading through your devotional book here, and you've got 90-day devotional for teens, is just how many verses. I mean, you've got verses every day,
yeah.
and when you read them in this context, it's like, wow, every one of these speak to this issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's amazing how much is there.
I know.
That we just sort of maybe gloss over or
yeah.
don't see it in that way.
Don't see it in that way.
I guess.
Yeah, and there's even a day in there I felt about me failing my driver's test when I was 16 years old, about asking for wisdom, and just I really wish I would have known that day, because that would have helped calm that anxiety within me as well.
Well, I see you tell a lot of stories.
I do.
I hope I'm not in any of them as
you're not. Don't worry.
Of problems in your life or anything like that.
You didn't make this book, Greg. Maybe the next one.
All right, so it's Caris Snider. You want to go and find her website. It's already listed there at our Priority Talk Radio. It's there in
show notes.
In our show notes. There you go. Thank you, Nate. In our show notes. So that's already listed there. But you'll find her, Caris with a C and Snider with an I. And so go find the website, and all the different books are there. And people buy the paper books, but also you can get them.
You can download them
as well.
That's right. Yeah,
we
on
fail
any
to
of your
mention that
devices.
a lot of times.
I forget that.
So
yes.
they are available.
All
and
of them are available.
That's
yes.
a quick, easy way to get them.
Yeah.
And these are from In-Game Publishing, and just really, really well done, all of them. And look, they're helping a lot of people. Have helped a lot of people. You don't get to your sixth book on a topic, on an issue. If it's not helping a lot of people, you quit after the first one.
Right.
You go, nobody needs that. But you're finding a lot of people need it. A lot of people have
right.
found it. over the last couple of years, and it's been very helpful to people.
Yeah.
And I know it will continue to be as well. And have her come speak to your group. Her and her husband can lead worship,
That's
lead
right.
music as well while
That's
they're
right.
there. So
You kill two birds with one stone.
that's right, all one package.
All in one package.
Come
yeah.
in, and I know you do a lot of that. I enjoy following you and seeing everywhere you're at. All right, Caris, thank you
Thanks for
so
having me
much.
back.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, you know that. All right, let's go to break, and we'll come back on the other side. More Priority Talk straight ahead.